All right. Can everyone hear me okay? Just give me a couple of thumbs ups. All right. Sushil can hear me. Pranav can hear me. Harihar can hear me. Great. Good to have everyone here today. And hopefully we can make your evening useful. So again, there's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of deadlines going on. And I'm glad you guys found the time to attend this session in the midst of all your deadlines. So thank you for that. I'll take a couple of minutes to introduce myself and introduce my company as well. And every once in a while, I'm going to be admitting people into the room. So it may look like I'm turning around and doing something else, but really all I'm doing is going to the Zoom window and admitting people into the room, right? So about myself, my name is Karthik. I can see some people who I've seen before. Shruta Kirti, I've definitely had you in some of our sessions before, I think. Sushil, Pranav. So welcome back, and please let your friends know about us as well. Now, HKUST Academy has been in business since 2013, and we've had the privilege and the honor of working with some of India's most talented MBA applicants. And it's been a very up and down kind of journey, right? This month, September, is usually one of the most stressful months for us every year. I'm trying my best just to make sure that everybody is able to submit their applications on time and all of that. And somewhere while I'm working on that, it becomes a little difficult for me to focus on my round two set of applicants. And it's not like we've taken people for round two yet. We are open for round two, and we are happy to sign people up. But it's just that we are finding it a little difficult for us to slot time for our two applicants, right? We've had excellent results so far. Last year, we had somebody get into Harvard. In fact, in every geography, I think we've had people get into the top 5 or 6, right? In the US, we've had people get into Harvard, Chicago Booth, Kellogg, MIT, Dartmouth, and definitely from 10 to 15, I think almost every college features with multiple admits every year. So that's our track record with the US. With regards to UK and the European Union, we've had people get into London Business School, INSEAD, Oxford, Cambridge, what else? HEC, IESC, SRD, you name it. These are pretty much the top 5 or 6 colleges in Europe, right? And within India, we've had people get into ISB. Apart from India, within the larger Asian continent, we've had people get into NUS, NTU, HKUST. So every major college in every territory, we've had the good fortune of having someone get there. And we do not take this lightly. It is something that has worked out in the past. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be work for us in future. So we are working hard. We are burning the midnight oil, and we are ensuring that we are able to replicate those results. And that's basically where I'm coming from. We've been organizing these bi-weekly sessions this year because we've actually faced a lot of requests for phone calls from people. And it's been a little difficult for us to schedule independent one-on-ones with everyone. So this is just a nice way for me to keep in touch with everybody. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer it. And likewise. Just another minute more. Somebody who's watching this on YouTube, either now or maybe even 10 years from now, because this video is going to live on YouTube. Some best practices here. At some point in the near future, we plan to upload a transcript of this call in the show details. So what you would do at this point is you would just click on show more details, and then it's going to open up a list of questions that were discussed in this particular episode. Alongside the question, we would have a timestamp. So if you click on that timestamp, then you can automatically skip to that part of the video, right? So if you're watching this video, but you're not necessarily keen on watching the entire video, there are only about 3 or 4 points that you want clarified. At some point in the future, we will make this transcript available. And at that point, all you have to do is click on the timestamp and you can go there and you can get your doubts clarified, right? So this is something that we're doing for you. We would have a request from you as well. We are a growing company. we need your support, and we are making this information available to you. And this is hopefully you will agree at the end of the session that is high quality information. So please show your support for us by subscribing to our channel. If you like the video, please like the video, right? In fact, even if you're neutral about the video, I think you should like the video because it helps us reach out to a wider audience using YouTube. So please, show your appreciation by, subscribing, liking, or sharing the videos, right? That said, I think we are in a great place to get started with our ROS discussion. So let me just share my screen. Just a second, I'm trying to find this. Yes. Can people see my mind map? Just give me a thumbs up if you can. Okay, so you can see my mind map. Great.
It's a little too zoomed in.
Yeah, we will work on that. Yeah. Was that Arzu?
No, Harihar.
Harihar. Okay, great. Yeah. That is something that we'll definitely work on. Better?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So let's do a quick show of hands, right? How many of you here are R1 applicants and how many of you are R2 applicants? So R1 applicants, can you raise your hands? Give a shout out. Alan, Sushil, Karthik, Rahul. Great. We have a deadline coming up in what, 1 week or so. So hopefully you guys are very close to finishing up. And what about R2 applicants? Anyone applying to ROS in R2? Hands up. So there's Nikhil, there's Naresh, there's Arzu, there's Arslan, there's Pranav, and there's Jignesh. Definitely all the best to all of you guys. And hopefully, if you're an R1 applicant, your GMAT is done. If you're an R2 applicant, you're either done or, we are very close to getting done. So definitely wish you all the best with all of that. So why are people interested in Michigan ROS? Can we get a couple of words from around the table? So some of our R1 applicants, what is it about Michigan ROS that attracts you?
I'll take a shot, Karthik, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
So the biggest thing is that they are famous for tech recruiting, and they are also open about the fact that most of them are career switchers. That's something that caught my eye initially, and the MAP course is something that really I found attractive for the career switch aspect.
Yep, great. So MAP is interesting, right? So again, I've been to Michigan's campus as well. I think this was in the year 2018. Yeah. So I went to about 5 campuses across North America at that point. I started out at Toronto, and then I went to Michigan, and then I went to Chicago, both Kellogg, and I also went to UT Austin, McCombs. Right? Great campus, Michigan. I mean, all of these are great campuses. I would be lying if I said one is better than the other because they're all great. And regardless of where you end up studying, I think you would be very fortunate to be studying there. But amongst all this, Michigan also fantastic campus. I think I have fond memories, especially because I spent a weekend there. There was an arts festival going on at that point. And I met an old student of mine. In fact, I got to spend the weekend with them. So he's married and his wife was also there staying with him. He took me to a very nice pizza place. And this is not like a Pizza Hut or a Domino's, or this is not one of those chains. This is one of those artisanal pizza places, right? The only branch in the world is at Ann Arbor, right? So, and so you had that very unique feel to it. It wasn't mass produced. It was very customized, and I wouldn't obviously call it homemade because it was not homemade, but it was a very unique recipe, right? And the entire street is full of very small stores like this. This is the street that's just outside the Graduate School of Business, which is Michigan ROS. One of the most outstanding departments out there. Definitely a lot of people from India, especially, get into Michigan and graduate into the technology sector. So if you're somebody who's looking at making a career for yourself in technology, Michigan is about as good as it gets. The MAP project, again, is very interesting, right? Of course, almost every major business school has something that is equivalent to the MAP. So it's not like the MAP is completely unique. But having said that, sometimes things don't have to be unique in order for them to be powerful, right? And the MAP is one such concept where you are exposed to a real business as a team of students, and you get to work with them on a consulting project, and you help the small business with a project that they're working on at that point. So it could be a summer class or something. So one of the projects that I heard about was this project at, so first of all, there's this place at Ann Arbor called the Ann Arbor Brewing Club. Anyone from Bangalore here? Can I have a show of hands? So Alan's from Bangalore, Jignesh is from Bangalore. I mean, are you living in Bangalore? I think that's the question, not necessarily are you from Bangalore. Ashla, Naresh, Karthik. So have you guys ever been to this place called ABC? Priyanka is from Bangalore. So ABC is the Arbor Brewing Club, I think. So it's somewhere near, what should I say? It's actually near a Nalli, which is a silk saree store. And I believe it's near that Garuda Mall, right? So it's a pretty popular landmark in Bangalore. If you've not been there, then I would definitely encourage you to go there. But yeah, I mean, why is this relevant to our discussion, right? The Arbor Brewing Club was originally founded in Michigan, in Ann Arbor, right? And then there was this gentleman from Bangalore who studied there, and he was so amazed by ABC that he changed his career goals. You know, he may have wanted to become a consultant, or he may have wanted to get into finance, or he may have had some goals like, you know, what all of you guys write about. But after spending 2 years in Michigan and spending most weekends at ABC, he said, hey, you know what? My life's ambition is to start a branch of ABC at Bangalore, and which is exactly what he did. So he finished up at Ann Arbor, and then he came back to Bangalore, and then he started a branch of ABC. So the gentleman who runs ABC is Ross Allen. Now, when I went to ABC, right, it was, so I was in Bangalore, and I was getting to catch up with some students of mine who had just gotten in to various colleges that year. And it turned out that 2 of the 4 people that I interacted with at that point had actually gotten into Ross, and the third one was just about to interview with Ross. You know, so we met in about February or so. The 2 admits were from R1, and the interview was a person who had applied in R2, right? So that's just a very interesting story. Now, what does this have to do with the MAP project? So this gentleman established ABC, and you know, it was okay. I mean, he had some troubles getting it off the ground. And so in a future year, what he did was he went back to Ross and he said, hey, you know what? I'm actually trying to establish a foothold of your culture in Bangalore, but I'm finding it a little difficult. So I need some support. And so there was a MAP project, and some students came to ABC in Bangalore to help him out and figure out how he could actually expand his footprint in Bangalore, right? So this is a very interesting tidbit that I got to learn. But yeah, the point is, if you're in Bangalore, go to ABC, and if you get the chance to meet this gentleman, ask him about his time at Ross. I haven't met him personally myself. Deadlines for Michigan, round 1's coming up in just about 14 days. Round 2 is on the 10th of Jan, and round 3 is on the 4th of April. If you are an Indian citizen applying from India, I would advise you to apply in round 1 or round 2, right? Please don't postpone to round 3. Requirements are about the same as almost every other college out there. You need a 1-page resume. Unofficial transcripts, okay for now, but at a later point in time, you will be asked to provide your official transcripts. You can provide an unofficial copy of your score report at this point, and under certain conditions, a test waiver may also be applicable. All right. So not that I recommend a test waiver. I've maintained that for an Indian applicant belonging to a competitive applicant pool, Perhaps a test waiver is not going to do a lot of magic, but it's there. And if you want to make use of it, you can, right? Just one letter of recommendation at this point, and interviews are by invitation only, right? So that's as far as the requirements go. And that brings us to the questions and essays. Any questions so far? Yeah, all right. So they have a very short-term goals essay. So what I would say is primarily talk about your plan A. And when you talk about your plan A, pick from any legitimate post-MBA career path. We've already had a discussion in another one of our sessions previously. If you want to remind yourself of what we talked about, then the relevant video is something that is titled, what are the popular post-MBA career goals? So this is one of the videos that's already there on our YouTube channel. This is from a previous Zoom Hangout. And it is quite popular in terms of the number of people who've seen it and benefited from it. Not necessarily because we push it on people, but people have discovered it through YouTube when searching for goals essays. And we are able to tell because we can track analytics on the video. So it's coming up very popularly on YouTube searches. There's a lot of value there. I break down the goals and say into its various components. So please take a look at that. But yeah, pick any post-MBA career path that is a legitimate post-MBA career path. So that's important. Do your due diligence on two aspects. The first aspect is, do you have the right background for success in that role? Okay. So this is where you will talk about what kind of relevant skills you have. What does it mean to have the relevant background or the right background for success in that role, right? So let's say you want to become a tech product manager. Yeah, I know somebody talked about how it was okay to switch careers, and yeah, it is okay to switch careers. But this is something that you do after the fact. This is something you do after the fact that you get into business school. When you write your career goals essay for getting into business school, it is always best for you to talk about how you come from a very closely allied background, right? So if you want to become a product manager in the technology industry, preferably you would have a technology background, not necessarily a product management background, but maybe a software engineering background, maybe a quality assurance background, or maybe just somebody who's worked in the tech industry in a sales or marketing role. Not saying that's preferable, but that would be somewhat of an acceptable alternative compared to somebody who's worked in the automotive sector, right? So someone who's managing shop floor operations in a car factory, you tell me you want to get into tech product management, that's a little bit of a reach. You may be able to do it. I'm not going to say you don't have the talent for it, but please do not write about it because it's going to raise a lot of questions. And at this point, it is better for you to focus your energy on converting a sure shot thing rather than convincing somebody that you have it in you to perform that role. That's not the objective here. The objective is to get into business school, right? So that's one thing. The second thing is think about whether you can demonstrate passion for that role. So explain your motivation, right? So, okay, you want to become a product manager. Why do you want to become a product manager, right? Hey, you know what? It looks like all the PMs in my company are having fun all the time. No, not a good reason. What does your PM do that you aspire to do? Why do you think what your PM does is cool? So think about that. And that's what you need to demonstrate here, okay? So do your due diligence. And after you talk about your plan A, you may want to talk about the relevant skills you have. And you may also want to express why you're interested in that plan A, okay? So in fact, I think I've just duplicated this here. Why is this of interest to you? Now, everything else is optional because Ross is a very short career essay. It's just 200 words, and they're only asking you for your short-term career goals and why, right? So everything else I'm just about to tell you is optional. If you have space and you're done with all of this in about 150 words, instead of just writing a 150-word essay, you may fill up the other 50 words with some of this content here. So what content here? Optionally, you may talk about your long-term goals. Optionally, you may talk about your plan B. And optionally, you may talk about how an MBA can help. So these 3 points are optional, not compulsory. It's just a 200-word essay. So talking about your plan A, talking about what kind of skills you have, talking about your motivation, this should take that much space. In case you are a particularly concise writer, then you will have space extra, and you can use that space to talk about your long-term goals, your plan B, or how an MBA will help. All right. So this is a goals essay, and if you want more details, especially about what are the legitimate post-MBA careers out there, definitely go check out the other YouTube video. And I have to say this: please do a like, share, subscribe on that as well. Okay. And apart from that, we just have these two essays, right? And both of these are 100 words, which means Ross is one of the easiest schools to work on. Do people find these 100-word essays easy or difficult? Can I have a show of hands? Who finds it easy? Okay, Vikas finds it easy, which means everybody else is finding it difficult. Nidhi finds it easy. Great. So I think I'm going to do something which I've been doing in the previous Hangouts, and I believe people have been liking it as well. So I'm going to open up a document called Michigan Ross Essays, and I'm going to ask you people to type something, all right? And then I'm going to offer my commentary on this. Is that okay? Can we have a show of hands if people want to start writing randomly into a piece of, okay, great. I think people enjoy this. So I'm just creating this, this Google Doc. Just give me a second, please. I'm going to stop share on this. And I'm going to share this Google Doc. Just a second. Okay, I think I've changed the permissions here. I'm just going to put it in the chat window. So please give me a minute and you can start typing into this. I'm also going to share screen here. Just a second, please. All right. Yeah, I think people can see this, right? So let's copy paste group one. But before we start typing, I want people to tell me which one of these questions we should be discussing. And in my opinion, all three of them are more or less the same. But if you have a preference, please speak out and let me know what you want to discuss. My preference would be to choose I made a difference when. Is that okay with people? I'm assuming that's okay with people. So let's go for it. So Jignesh says that's okay. So let's use this. And if you've not attended a session with me before, this is what I want you to do. This is completely anonymous, right? If I look at who's typing, so the first person is anonymous Crichton, the second person is anonymous Loris, anonymous Otter, anonymous Dolphin, anonymous Grizzly. So nobody knows who's typing what, okay? So all I want you is to do is to pick up some space here, mark the beginning and the end, and this is the space which you're going to be typing into. And you can start typing here. So I'm putting my name, because I'm going to be owning this. But you can choose to go anonymous and you can just type whatever you want. Just mark the beginning and the end so that other people can type in other places, right? And then I'll just give you my commentary on what I think. So let's see. I made a difference when I'm just trying to think here. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the other person, you can just like delete my name or something, right? I don't want it all to be attributed to me. Great. So I think I'll continue typing here. So let's say I was MS Dhoni, right? Assuming I don't want to talk about myself either. I may want to say that I made a difference when I hit a six of the last ball in the 2011 World Cup, right? So I made a difference when I hit a six of the last ball of the 2011 World Cup. Now, if you are Gautam Gambhir, you may disagree, but let's leave that discussion outside. So the question here is, why exactly did I make a difference there, right? So let's explore that. So who did I make a difference to? The Indian team, in fact, the entire country, right? Because that was us winning a cricket World Cup after, I don't know, 30 or 40 years. Okay, so who did I make it? And more importantly, what did I learn? To be calm under pressure. To marshal my resources, team around a common goal, win it for Sachin or something like that. So this is pretty much it. So the moral here is people need to be shown a larger than life objective, and they would be happy to fight for a teammate, so on and so forth, right? So the very simple thing. Now let's look at your stories. I made a difference when I was part of a team that set up the largest Wi-Fi network across railway stations in India. The project impacted 1 million people daily. Okay. Yeah, of course. I think that is great. If I, whenever I use the Wi-Fi at railway stations, assuming you operated at Chennai also, I will remember to thank you. So what else can you write about? Yeah. Talk about one or two challenges that you faced. How did you overcome those challenges? What motivated you to keep fighting on in spite of those challenges? Who did you add value to? Since you say it was a team project, what was your specific contribution? In fact, I think I would take that and put that here. That would be the first thing to talk about. Okay, so anytime somebody talks about a team project, I always ask them, okay, great. You were part of something very, very important when it was happening, but what did you do, right? And then people would go back to saying, hey, what, I was part of the team. No. I don't want to know what the team did. I want to know what you did. Okay. So what was your specific contribution? Talk about that. Talk about one or two challenges that you faced. How did you overcome those challenges? And this is very important, right? What motivated you to keep fighting on? So this is important. And finally, who did you add value to? So that part is very important as well, right? Just a sec. What kind of value did you enable for them? So you will see that almost everything else follows a very similar pattern. So let's look at the first story. I made a difference when I repaired the society's emergency backup generator during the super cyclone Amphan in Kolkata. That got damaged in the cyclone and there was no electricity or drinking water. This helped in supplying drinking water to nearby areas during the disaster. Okay, fantastic. So you will see that actually the same questions are applicable here as well. Okay, now your specific contribution is clear, so I'm going to take that off. Talk about one or two challenges that you faced. Obviously, the challenges are it wasn't a very conducive environment to work in. How did you overcome those challenges? You were super motivated. All of that is there. The most important question again is what motivated you to keep fighting on in spite of those challenges? Who did you add value to? That part is clear. So essentially, what is important here is this is a story where the value added is very clear. But what needs to be explained is, okay, the value is clear, the challenges are clear, but why exactly did you feel that it was important for you to fight? So talk about that. That's important, right? I made a difference when I organized a waste recycling drive in the locality that I live in. Okay, great. For a week, people from my community collected recyclable plastic waste from their houses in one place. And at the end of the week, we called in a truck from a recycler. Okay, great. So your specific contribution is clear. The more important thing is what motivated you. Again, why did you feel that it was important to organize this waste recycling drive? Were you an environmental campaigner? Was your neighborhood particularly bad about such issues? How did you raise awareness? So these are the areas where you should be focusing on for this particular essay, right? Okay, I made a difference when I led a CSR program that benefited X numbers of farmers in one of the most drought-prone areas of India by giving them access to water, which led to an improvement in the standard of living of farmers and the agricultural productivity. Great. It involved working with a lot of governmental bodies and farmers spread across 14 villages. Fantastic. Again, now you're not exactly saying that this is a team project, but something of this magnitude, I'm assuming is a team project. So I would still like to see what your specific contribution here was, right? And other than that, the same template works well for you as well. So in every one of these essays, the more important points are the last 2 points. Who did you add value to? What kind of value did you enable? And what motivated you to keep fighting on? So that is not going to change, right? Okay, folks, I'm going to ask you to stop writing something new because then we will be moving on to the next essay, all right? But whoever has written, let's just discuss that again. I stood against domestic violence that happened to a female coworker. Objective was to raise importance to feminine health and well-being. Involved creating helpline numbers to get support from police and also took help from doctors for improving mental health of victims. I'm assuming that's what you've written there. These are some very, very important issues. But yeah, what motivated you? That is important. I would rather start with that. Talk about some challenges that you faced and this, who did you add value to and what kind of value you added? Well, that was clear. What motivated you? That is the most important thing, right? you're talking about a few different issues. There's domestic health and there's mental health as well. There are certain scenarios in which all three are possibly involved in the same situation. If it is not the case, then you may want to clarify that it was one versus the other, right? Okay, moving on. I'm going to copy paste this entire structure once more. I made a difference when I decided to start a technical collegiate team in a totally new domain of additive manufacturing and drone space. All right. Giving my peers a totally new platform to learn and grow. In our initial attempt, we went on to securing 8th rank globally and 2nd rank in Asia Pacific. In what exactly? Oops. Leading the team, challenges and setbacks in our journey, I understood the importance of maintaining composure and patience and being optimistic. The moral of the story is clear, but there hasn't been enough room in this short write-up to explain that, hey, you know what, I faced various challenges and setbacks. So you may want to talk about what kind of challenges you faced and why you were motivated enough to maintain your composure and patience. So I think some specific details would be very useful here. Okay. Somebody else, I made a difference when in college I became the first person to land an on-campus recruitment job in a software product company, convinced 3 of my co-hires to start offering to coach other students on product company interviews. And we ended up coaching 70 to 80 people on communication skills and how to answer typical interview questions, not related to the core subject. Around 40 of them landed the job they wanted to land. So I think all of this is clear, except the first sentence, right? You really need to change the sentence. So let me just talk about this concept of a framing sentence, right? So this, what I'm wearing here, if you go to Lenskart, they'll call it a frame, right? Why is it called a frame? Because it frames my face. Essentially, that's what it does, right? Now, I know some people still have these real photos printed out and then they hang it in their walls at home and such, right? That is called a frame. Why? Because it frames the photograph, right? So a frame is something into which you put the main content so that it is housed in a nice package. So that's what it's called, a frame. So the first sentence is a framing sentence. You set the tone in your first sentence. You explain to them what was the difference you made. When you say the difference you made was when you became the first person to land a job, the assumption is that the rest of the essay is about how you got a job. Okay. And that is not right, because, I mean, when you get a job, you make a difference only to yourself, not to other people. But when I read the rest of the essay is actually about how you helped other people, right? So the mistake is not with the rest of the essay. The rest of the essay is perfect as it is. The mistake is with your framing sentence. So just change it to indicate how you helped, 40 people in your college get jobs that they wanted. Then you can talk about the context. Then you can talk about what challenges you faced and why you decided to push forward. Is that, I hope that's okay, right? I made a difference to several visually impaired people who use our product by ensuring that our website was accessible and interactive for them, by modifying and reworking on critical components which earlier were not usable by visually impaired people via screen readers. Okay, I think that's perfectly fine as well. My feedback would be the same as before. Yeah. If you're typing something new, I would request you to not do that, because we'll move on to the second essay right now. Okay, going back, I'm going to stop sharing for just a little. Actually, you know what? I don't need to share my screen. I'm just going to copy paste it. So this is group 2 here. We are going to do the same exercise, but maybe we'll just do it for about 2 or 3 people. I'm going to demarcate here. And, feel free to type something. Let's focus on, is there a particular topic that people want to focus on? If nobody has a preference, then maybe we'll just focus on I'm out of my comfort zone then. Okay, since nobody is expressing a preference, I'll focus on this. Does somebody want to speak, or is that somebody whose mic suddenly got unmuted? Okay.
Yeah, I was about to tell that it would be good if we had gone with I was challenged when.
I was challenged when. Okay. Great. Does anybody have some other preference, or is everybody okay with that? I think Sambhav also has mentioned the same thing. So let's pick that. I was challenged when. So here's the deal, right? Let me give you some insight into why I'm only doing one of these 3 topics. Don't you think I'm out of my comfort zone when and I was challenged when are actually 2 different ways of saying the same thing? Right? I mean, in fact, if you look at the examples provided by the Michigan Ross admissions director, I think she would have said something along the lines of, I'm out of my comfort zone when I was asked to make a public speech. And the same thing can be used for I was challenged when as well. I was challenged when I had to make a public speech, right? So both of these are areas where they are trying to understand what is a topical area or a weakness that you have. And when we say weakness, we are not looking at something deep and something that runs, psychological weakness, nothing of that sort, just an everyday weakness, right? I'm out of my comfort zone when, okay, I mean, I'm asked to make a public speech, right? That's what the admissions director wrote in her essay. If I had to write something, I would say something along the lines of, I'm out of my comfort zone when I'm just trying to think here. Let's see. Or I was challenged when I have to interact with difficult people, right? It's always a challenge. You can't lose your temper. But just because somebody else is being difficult, it doesn't mean that you can just do it for them also, right? So you have to find a balance between how you handle them in a very calm and unemotional manner. And at the same time, if you feel that what they're asking for is right, you do it for them. But if you feel that what they're asking for is not right, then you shouldn't be doing it for them. But in that particular situation, these people are going to get angry. So how do you balance that? So this is an area that I'm evolving day by day, and it is a challenge for me, right? So if I had to write it, I would probably write about that. So what are some challenges that you people are facing? Why don't you take 2-3 minutes to write? I think somebody has already written it. I was challenged when my team had a job, an advertising job with limited budget. Okay, great. I think that's a great framing sentence because it's very clear what the challenge was. You had an advertising job, the budget was very limited. Maybe you can be a little bit more specific, right? Be a bit more specific. What budget would have been comfortable? And what did you have? The advertisement was supposed to be one of its kind, as it was for our company's new range of products, which we had developed and was about to be in market. Providing top-notch results with a small budget was challenging. I discussed with my team and we finally decided to do much of the work in-house. Being a director for short movies helped me guide. So this is a very nice way of bringing in your talent as well. So more power to you. Extra points. with my team contribution and dedication towards completion of the project, we were able to produce the desired goal within the required time frame. So don't prefer desired goal or required time frame. State what the desired goal was. State the required time frame. So in marketing, right? I think in today's day and age, when marketing is measurable, you do have the opportunity to quantify your goals. So if it's a TV advertisement, you may be able to so many number of views. If it's an online advertisement, you may be able to talk about so many number of clicks or so many leads generated or awareness. So all of this can be quantified, right? When something can be quantified, you don't have to resort to words like desired. The same way, time frame, right? Time frame, right? I mean minutes, right? Or months or hours or weeks. So what was the time frame you were dealing with and how did you execute on that? So I think that specificity is what I would ask you to talk about. But other than that, I think you have all the elements here. The context is important, but it is not super important, right? Because this is about the challenge you face. Presumably it is for your company's products. That part is almost understood. You can make this a little shorter. From here on is where I think the real essay would happen, from providing all the way up to required time frame, right? Okay. I was challenged when more than half of my team got infected during the COVID crisis on board a merchant ship, and I was supposed to continue with cargo projects because of time constraints. It was challenging to manage the work hours. Okay. I think a little bit more context. How many people were on board? How many people, I mean, you're saying half the team got affected, but is it 50 out of 100 people or is it 5 out of 10 people, right? So, and with whoever was remaining, what were the challenges you faced? Obviously, you did not have enough manpower to work on the cargo projects. So was it about becoming slower? Was there a client who was being unreasonable? These are some details you can add. Then you talk about how you managed it. So one way to manage it is to just work twice as much time. If you're supposed to have 8-hour work days, you work for 16 hours. That's one way to do it. But what else did you do, right? How do you maintain your morale? How did you maintain your team's morale? So all of that, I think, would be additionally useful to talk about. Again, this is only 100 words. I'm giving you a lot of advice. It may not be possible for you to talk about every little point here. So keep it at a high level, but to the extent possible, address all of this, right? Okay, I think that is that's basically all the essays. Now, going back to my original mind map, just give me a second. I'm going to stop share. Yep. So the one thing that I would want you guys to do is after you finish your essay, you give your draft to a friend and ask them 2 questions. Does it sound like me? Because a lot of the time what people are doing is they're getting other people to write for them, and it's really a very nice write-up. But the moment you speak to them, you realize that their command of the language is, it's okay. I mean, it's a foreign language for all of us. Nobody here can claim that English is their first language, regardless of which part of India you're from. So there is no expectation that you write like, I don't know, Sashi Tharoor or somebody like that, right? When you speak like, you know, Lalu Prasad Yadav, but you write like Sashi Tharoor, there is clearly a disconnect there. Do people agree with that? Give me a thumbs up if you do. Yeah, Alan, thank you. So that is the problem, right? Anmol, yeah, great. Harihar. So that's the point, right? I mean, it has to sound like you. With all your flaws, it still has to sound like you, right? So that is the first thing. And the second question is, do not give your friend the question. Give them the write-up and ask them, okay, what do you think the question is? So why am I insisting on this, right? So you guys are probably started writing essays for colleges. And one of the things that you're probably doing is you've got a very solid draft prepared for a question asked by one college. Okay. And then you copy paste the exact same story and paste it as a response to a very similar question posted by a different college, right? But that's it. It's just a similar question. It is not the same question. So when there's a very subtle change, but you insist on giving them the same write-up, it's a little easy for the second college to understand that this was an answer prepared for some other college. College number 2 is not your top priority because you did not think it was important to write an essay tailor-made for them. Rather, you prefer to copy paste something written for college number 1, right? So you want to avoid such scenarios. So, how do you avoid such scenarios? You avoid such scenarios by tailor making an essay for every individual question that each college is asking. It's okay to have some content that is shared, but at least you have to reshape your content, right? You have to restructure your sentences so that it is answering the new question. A definite giveaway is when some people start using phrases that are, Tuck has this concept of aware, inclusive, encouraging, and all that. Now, when I see these phrases coming up in my Columbia essay, I know this person is also applying to Tuck, right? And when somebody talks about confidence without humility, confidence with humility, or something like that, right? For Berkeley, that's a Berkeley theme. And then they repeat the same confidence with humility in, let's say, an Anderson essay. I know you're applying to Berkeley. And Berkeley is Berkeley and Anderson is Anderson. I know if you get into Berkeley, you will not take up Anderson. So why would I even bother wasting my resources by giving you an offer, right? So you don't want people to start thinking along those lines. So you need to be answering the question that that college has asked in language that is in sync with what that college is using, right? Wherever you come up with these themed sentences, which certain colleges use and only those colleges use, and it is okay for you to repeat that sentence structure in your essay for that particular college, but recognize that it's a very unique sentence structure. Do not ever use it in another college's essay, right? So this is some generic advice that I would have. Now I'm open to questions. I'm going to close sharing. Just give me a second. All right, people, we have, let's say, another 10 minutes for questions. Does anyone want to ask me anything? All right, so I can see that there's been some chatter. People love ABC, great. Founded by a Ross Hallam. His name is Gaurav. Okay, I didn't know that. Say hi to Gaurav. I'm working on the application right now and just need to go through the essays. Can I meet the R1? Disadvantages of R2 as compared to R1 for Ross. I wouldn't be able to tell what your level of maturity is on the essays. I also haven't studied your writing. So it's a little hard for me to comment on it. I think given that you have another 14 days, it is definitely worth making an attempt. But if this is a question about you working with HKUST Academy, that's a two-part answer. I'm really happy that you're considering working with HKUST Academy, and I would want to work with you as well. But having said that, 2 weeks is not a commitment that I can make, right? So I can definitely commit to R2, but not R1 for us. Anyone who's joining before the 10th of September, we are saying that the earliest deadline that we can help them meet is probably around the 10th to 15th of October. So we need that 30 to 35 day run-up time for the first college. We may be able to do something earlier than that, but we cannot commit to it. The earliest strong commitment, definite commitment that we can make is October 10 to 15 for somebody who's joining right now. Okay. Will you suggest using a personal life challenge or a professional example? It really doesn't matter, Samba. Personal life is fine, professional life is fine. I don't think you need to get too personal unless you're okay sharing your personal details. And what do I mean by that? I'm not saying this has anything to do with you or your question, all right? But because I've talked to a lot of people, and I've talked to hundreds of people. People have health issues, people have relationship issues, People have, all sorts of very personal issues, right? Now, unless this is relevant to the MBA application, there is actually no necessity for you to open up and talk about any one of these things. And why would it be relevant to an MBA application? Because if it demonstrates a trait that you possess, let's say resilience, let's say persistence, let's say being calm under pressure. So these are some very valuable traits. And maybe this example showcases all of those traits, right? In such a scenario, it is relevant to the MBA application and you may use it. But then you can ask yourself the question, is this the only story that demonstrates those traits? Or do I have another story which will help me demonstrate the same set of traits? And chances are very high that if you are a resilient person, you would have been resilient in multiple scenarios, right? It's not just about how you overcame a health condition, but also about, let's just say, you wanted to get into a very difficult to get into class, an elective, right? Either in college or some other place, let's say IIT JEE, right? So you did not succeed the first time, right? But you decided to take 1 year off and you worked really hard and then you got in the second time, right? So that is also an example that demonstrates resilience, persistence, hard work, being dedicated to a cause. So, you decide whether you want to talk about something much more personal than that, or if you can just demonstrate the same qualities using a very harmless example. Choice is yours. Now, there are some people who claim that you can use a professional example for one story and a personal example for one story. I don't subscribe to such views. I'm okay with both personal or both professional. At the end of the day, you are providing them with a resume. Your recommenders will be writing letters on your behalf. So a lot of your professional life is going to get covered in all of this, right? So it's okay with you doing both personal life stories. But whatever it is that you do, think about why you're doing it. And if you have sufficient cause, do it. If you don't have sufficient cause, then, then don't bother, right? Then stick to the one personal, one professional template. Disadvantages of applying an R2 over R1. We are in a very sensitive timeline right now. A lot of you may not be ready to apply in R2. And what do I mean by that? If you want to apply in R2, then you should have the structure of some of your essays worked out already. I'm not saying you should have started, you should have executed ROS at this point. It's okay. You can still start ROS as a new college, but you should have done at least 2 more colleges, right? So that you understand you have like a body of content, your goals essay is more or less finalized. And all you have to do is modify that essay for a few new colleges. So you need to be in that position. But if you're starting from scratch, then it may be a little difficult for you, okay? So should you submit a 50% good essay in R1 or a 90% good essay in R2? My answer would be 90% good essay in R2, okay? Now let's assume that you are able to submit a 90% essay in R1 as well. Then the question is, you should submit it in R1, right? So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's all there is to it. If you're ready, you should go for it. If you're not ready, then don't rush. Wait. Your chances may be a little lower, but that's okay. That's perfectly okay. Your chances will still be higher because you would be submitting a much better application. I'm a final year undergraduate student. I wanted a profile evaluation and guidance with respect to deferred MBA programs, preferably YLP. I am not able to attach my resume here. Would it be possible for you to discuss a bit after live session, as sharing my resume would disclose my contact details, or should I share intricate details here in chat? No, absolutely. You don't have to share anything in chat. You can send me an email, but this is just about our current status, right? We are really swamped with our R1 commitments. Like right now, after I'm done with this webinar, I'll probably take like a break for half an hour or 40 minutes. And then I have like a whole night full of editing to look forward to. So what I'm finding is it's a little difficult for me to take time out of my commitments for my R1 candidates. So that's something that I'm finding. And when we schedule slot, we are open for R2 though. Okay, so we are signing up people for R2. It's just that I'm not getting the time to talk to people about R2 applications. So what we have decided to do is you send me an email. It definitely helps if you're done with your GMAT and GRE, and if you have that 3 to 5 years of work experience. Of course, early admission programs are different. The expectation is that you're still in college, you're done with your GMAT, and you can apply. But for a regular application, it's expected that you would have between 3 to 5 or 6 years of experience, and you are done with the GMAT. So ensure that that is the case. We will have a very small charge, a token amount. But when you sign up with us, we will subtract that amount from the fee. Okay. Why do we do this, right? I think I'm just going to be transparent with everybody. We have very few slots, and we need to understand whom to give our time to, right? And we try to help out a lot of people through our webinars and all that. And hopefully you agree with me that I've not held anything back in my advice through this session. But when I have 2 or 3 slots and I want to schedule an appointment for somebody, I would like to see that this person has the intent of signing up, right? And sometimes that is not the case. It's an observation that we've had in the past. And we find that, the token charge that we charge is not much. It's a very small amount, but that is enough to dissuade somebody who's not serious about working with us. So we are able to, focus on the candidates who would benefit from our help, and we would also benefit because, this can actually become a longer term engagement for us as well. So, we are a business, right? So we do it for that. There are some people, there's no pressure for you to sign up after that, right? It's going to be a very small amount. But to us, it indicates that you're serious about moving forward. And before that, I will send you all the details about our pricing structure and all that. So there's going to be no surprises really. It's just a question of, are you serious about working with us, right? So we do that. So please send me an email. But if you are an undergrad student, I would probably ask you to wait for another month at least. So hopefully move on to October, and then maybe we can have a chat at that point. And then I'll let you know how you can schedule a chat. Yeah. Somebody else wanted to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of R1 versus R2. I think I just explained that. Should I choose a school for STEM MBA as a reason, and should I mention this to a school? If STEM makes sense for you, by all means, choose a school because it has a STEM affiliated program. And what do I mean by STEM makes sense for you? Typically, STEM makes sense for people interested in the technology industry, right? I am not 100% sure that if you want to get into consulting, STEM applies to you. So you may want to check that with the schools first. And if you're wanting to get into consulting or finance and there's actually no STEM certification available for that, then it doesn't make sense for you to use STEM as a reason for why you should get into a school. Scholarship prospects at Ross, if we apply in R2, usually it's good. This year and the previous year, we've seen the number of applicants go up. So I cannot commit for what it's going to look like this year. But we've definitely had people applying in round 2, and we've had people getting scholarships in round 2 as well. Scholarship prospects in Ross with a 770 GMAT, if I submit a good application, I think you have great prospects. Can we get TOEFL waivers easily? Yes, absolutely. You can get TOEFL waivers easily. I think Anderson and Berkeley are probably 2 colleges which will require you to take the TOEFL anyway. My general advice to people on this is take the TOEFL anyway. It's a very easy exam. It requires you to prepare for about 2 or 3 days, and you can get it done with, and then you don't need to carry any stress about do I need to take it? Do I not need to take it? Will they give me a waiver? Will they not give me a waiver? No, you don't have to worry about any of these things. You have a score ready, right? And for most people who graduated from a KV or an equivalent school, I think cracking the 100 in TOEFL is not a very difficult thing. So, my advice is take it, but you can get TOEFL waivers. That's not a problem, except for Ross and Anderson. Not Ross, sorry, Berkeley and Anderson. Alan wants to ask a question live. Go for it, please.
Hi, Karthik. So yeah, I want to be a career switcher after the MBA. Would you say it's a safer thing to just say in the essays that I don't want to career switch, I just want to move to the same field, same job? And if that is true, how do you justify it?
See, don't talk about the same job. then the question comes up, why do you want an MBA, right? So there's multiple aspects of your job, right? There's the geography, there is the industry, there is the function, okay? So clearly you are changing your geography, because you're working in India, presumably, I don't know, but assuming you're working in India and you want to work in the US, right? So that's a geography switch. Now, between the other two, don't change both, preferably. So hold on to your industry, change your function, hold on to your function, change your industry. Now, given that the MBA is about how you pick up a different set of functional skills, what makes more sense of the two options is to hold on to your industry and change your function. Hence, a software engineer going into a product management role. You're holding on to the tech industry, but you're changing your function. An engineer working for Tata Motors at the shop floor, or let us say in a buying function, working with Amazon in an operations role. You're changing your industry, holding your function, right? So holding your function, but it's a little bit more advanced because, at the end of the day, all the auto industry is a 100-year-old industry and Amazon is like a 20-year-old company with more advanced management practices. So same function, but slightly more advanced. Any other questions?
No, thanks.
All right. Does anyone have any other questions?
Yeah, I do have one question, Karthik. So we have seen a lot of optional essays in in most of the all universities. So
Correct.
these optional essays, tend to have. I mean, we can showcase our whatever is like. Let's say we have some low undergrad score, or let's say you're looking for a scholarship and you want to really mention that. So when I'm writing an optional essay and when I say that I already have a low score and this is the reason, so won't it be like showing something negative, a part of mine to them, which they might ignore sometimes? So when writing this optional essay, won't it be like I'm already showing it to them that I'm negative on this side?
No, don't worry too much about it. The point is, if you don't have a reason for why you have first of all, you need to understand what is a low GPA and what is a high GPA. If you have a 7+, I don't think it's a low GPA that you need to explain. It's a low GPA, yes. You will probably not get into a top tier PhD program that is also there, but you're not applying for a PhD program in engineering or something. You're applying for an MBA, and a 7+ is perfectly okay for an MBA. Let's say you have a GPA between 5 and 7. That may be considered a low GPA, right? Then again, I mean, do you have an explanation for this, right? Why do people have a low GPA? Because they don't understand what's happening in college, or because
They were involved in extracurricular activities.
They were involved in extracurricular activities,
yeah.
Or because
they had some family issues.
Yeah, some family issues. Yeah. So let's say, family issues. Okay, fine. I can understand that may have an impact on the grades. Fine. Okay. Let's say somebody was sick. That will have an impact on the grades. Got it. Yeah. Let's say you were involved in extracurriculars. Okay, fine. That's an option that you chose to exercise. But okay, I mean, as long as you're willing to reevaluate your position on how important it is for you to concentrate on your academics, I think that's also something that I may be okay with. If you're just a bad student, then what are you going to explain? Nothing, right? I tried my best, but this is all I could muster. No, that's not an explanation. You might as well just let it go, not talk about it at all. So, I'm just giving you a wide range of scenarios here.
Okay.
Some of these are acceptable reasons, some of these are not. If you have an acceptable reason, it is worth writing about it. If you don't have an acceptable reason, then don't bother.
Okay, fine, Karthik.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. So let's see. I think the deferred MBA student has a question. So could I share my email address? Let's see. What all would be required to you so that I can share accordingly. Additionally, I understand that you're taken up with your commitment, so it is totally fine. We are able to schedule after a month as you get free. Fair enough. So Karthik at augustacademy.in. write to me next month. This is for the deferred MBA candidate. If you're somebody who's looking at an R2 application for regular stream of applications, write to me. I may not be able to guarantee an immediate reply, but it goes into a file. I put a star on it, and then somewhere between 3 to 4 days, I will get back. And please understand, we are interested in signing up people for R2, but we just don't have the bandwidth for it. So it's a internal problem that we are trying to solve. Do I need to talk about job change in a short span? If it's in the future, you don't have to talk about it. If it is something that just happened in the recent past, and it's, say, if you're working for HCL and you move to Infosys, that's not much of a job change. You're still in the same industry sector. That's not something you need to explain. But whereas if you're working for Infosys and you suddenly move to Bank of America, actually, what, that may even be the same job. If you're working for Infosys and suddenly you move to, let us say, Tata Motors in a manufacturing capacity, now that is a sudden job, right? It's a job change. So explain what's happening there. Or family business, right? Let's say your family business is in making some household item, right? And before that, you were a software engineer. So why did you shift? And so explain that. All right, people, I think that's about all the questions that we had. Would it be okay to move jobs after getting an admit? Yeah, definitely. It's okay. Perfectly fine.
Hi, Karthik. Are you open to taking one more question?
Yeah, Pranav, please tell me.
Karthik, so the question that I had is, so if I were to look at the group 2 essays, right, the first and the third essay are largely, if I were to put it very simply, more of a negative connotation essays, while the second essay would probably be will have more of a positive spin on it, right? And when I talk about I was humbled when. So I want to check, is there a logic between choosing like a more negative connotation essay versus a positive connotation, or should I?
No, there is nothing negative or positive about any of these things. All of these talk about some challenges that you have faced. I was humbled when is also talking about a challenge that you faced, right? I mean, when exactly are you humbled? When you think you can do something very easily and then you realize that you cannot do it. That is when humility sets in, right? So that is also a challenge.
Understood. Thanks so much.
Yeah. All right, great people. Let's close the session today. Again, if you are interested in looking at an R2 application, please reach out. It's going to take some time and we can set up a chat. Like I said, we'll have that small token charge, but it's just to filter who's serious and who's not. And we are completely on board with subtracting that when you sign up with us. I will be sending you my pricing sheet and all that. So you just need to send me an email. I'll send you my pricing sheet. And apart from that, back to some YouTube requests. We put in a lot of time and effort into this, and we are a growing business. And we need your help and support with reaching out to a lot of people. So it may be the case that you are a supporter, but not necessarily somebody who signed up with us, but that doesn't mean you can't recommend us to other people. If you think we are doing good work, please recommend us to other people. And on the video, please like, share, and subscribe, and that will help us a lot. Thank you.